Most people think the way to build wealth is to earn a dramatically bigger salary, a better job, a lucky business, one move that changes everything. But for most normal people, that is not how wealth gets built. A salary is just water moving through a pipe. It feels powerful on payday, then it disappears into rent, food, car payments, subscriptions, taxes, and whatever life throws at you next. The question is not only how much water flows through the pipe, the question is how much you redirect before it reaches the drain. For this story, use a deliberately ordinary number, $62,000 a year. Not poverty, not luxury, just a middle-of-the-road salary that gives you enough to make decisions, but not enough to waste them. Now imagine two people with that same basic opportunity. One spends in the order life demands. Bills first, lifestyle second. Whatever is left at the end goes toward the future. Usually, nothing is left. The other uses a different order. Future first, survival second, comfort third, upgrades last. That order is the entire video. This is not a promise that everyone ends with the same number. Markets change, taxes change, salaries change. Life is messy. But the principle is consistent. If your paycheck has no order, your income will always look bigger than your wealth. So here is the order that turns an average salary into a real wealth machine. You are 25. Payday hits. After taxes and deductions, roughly $1,900 lands every 2 weeks. It looks like income, but really, it is a decision point. Most people treat the deposit like permission. Permission to relax, permission to upgrade, permission to spend first and plan later. The wealth builder treats the same deposit like raw material. Before the money gets comfortable in the checking account, part of it is assigned a job, not because the person is naturally disciplined. That is a dangerous myth. Discipline is unreliable. Automation is better. So the first rule is simple. Do not wait to see what is left. Decide what leaves first. In this example, the target is $1,000 a month toward wealth building. That is aggressive on an average salary. It probably means an older car, a roommate longer than expected, fewer casual upgrades, and less room for impulse spending. It is not glamorous, and pretending it is easy would be dishonest. But it is also not magic. It is a trade. You are trading some present comfort for future control. The mistake beginners make is thinking investing starts with picking the perfect stock. It does not. The smarter order starts with damage control. First, build a small emergency buffer. Not a perfect 6-month fortress on day one. Start with enough cash to stop a flat tire, medical bill, or late paycheck from becoming credit card debt. Even $1,000 to $2,000 can change the emotional pressure around money. Second, take the employer match if your workplace offers one. A match is not a hot investing tip. It is part of your compensation. Ignoring it is like refusing part of your paycheck, because the form looked boring. Third, attack high-interest debt. If a credit card charges 20% interest, you do not need a genius investment to beat it. Paying that balance down is already a strong return, because it stops the leak. Fourth, use tax-advantaged accounts where they fit your country and situation. In the United States, that may mean a Roth IRA, traditional IRA, 401k, or health savings account if eligible. In the United Kingdom, viewers may think of workplace pensions, ISAs, or SIPPs. In Canada, the rough equivalents are accounts like a TFSA, RSP, and workplace retirement plan. The names are different. The logic is the same. Use the accounts that reduce taxes, protect long-term growth, or give you free money before you use a normal taxable brokerage. Fifth, once the protective pieces are handled, invest the repeated amount into broad, diversified funds, instead of trying to prove you are smarter than every professional in the market. A low-cost total market or broad index fund will not make you feel like a genius at dinner. That is one of its advantages. The point is not excitement. The point is ownership. At 26, after a year of putting money away, the account may not look impressive. You may have contributed $12,000 and see only a little growth. That is where many people quit emotionally. They think, I changed my lifestyle for this? But early compounding is supposed to look unimpressive. In the beginning, your contributions do most of the work. The investments are still too small to move the story by themselves. The first year is not about getting rich. It is about proving that your paycheck can obey instructions. By 30, the account starts to feel real. After 5 years, the contributions are meaningful. The growth is still smaller than the money you put in, but it is visible now. For the first time, you can point to dollars that did not come from overtime, bonuses, or another meeting. Those dollars came from ownership. That is the first psychological shift. Now bring in Ryan. Ryan earns more. There is always a Ryan. He has the newer car, the cleaner apartment, the trips, the watch, the restaurant photos, and the confidence that comes from being visibly ahead. Ryan may not be irresponsible. He may simply be normal. He earns more, so he slowly builds a life that requires more. This is the trap. Income upgrades are easy to see. Wealth systems are almost invisible. Nobody sees the automatic transfer. Nobody compliments the boring index fund. Nobody asks about the emergency fund at dinner. So, for years, Ryan looks richer. But Ryan has one number: salary. The disciplined investor has two numbers: salary and ownership. One requires showing up. The other keeps working after the laptop closes. Then the market drops. Not a cute little dip. A real drop. The kind that makes headlines ugly and makes smart people suddenly sound certain about disaster. This is where the plan stops being a spreadsheet and becomes behavior. The account falls. Months of contributions seem to vanish. Maybe years of progress disappear on the screen. Ryan says he is waiting until things calm down. That sounds wise. It feels wise. It is often just fear wearing a suit. The disciplined investor does something boring and uncomfortable. Keeps buying. Not because losses feel good. Not because crashes are harmless. And not because every market always recovers quickly. They keep buying because the plan was built before the panic. The emergency fund covers real life. High-interest debt is controlled. The investment money is long-term money. So a lower market price means new contributions buy more ownership than they did last month. This is one of the hardest parts of wealth building. The correct move often feels wrong in the moment. By the late 30s or early 40s, something changes. At first, you were pushing the account uphill with $1,000 at a time. Every month, your contribution was the main event. Then the account becomes large enough that growth starts doing serious work. A normal market year can add more than several months of your take-home pay. A strong year can add more than you save in the entire year. A bad year can still hurt, but it no longer destroys the system because the system has survived before. Then one day, almost without drama, the growth in the account becomes larger than the money you personally contributed. That is the crossover. It does not come with music. Nobody sends a certificate. You probably notice it while checking a dashboard on a random weekday. But financially, it is huge. Before that point, you were the main worker. After that point, your money becomes a second worker, and eventually the second worker becomes stronger than you. At 45, the account may be large enough that the 4% guideline starts becoming understandable. Not as a guarantee, and not as a law of nature, but as a planning idea. If a portfolio can support roughly 4% withdrawals in retirement, then a $500,000 portfolio represents about $20,000 a year of potential spending power. That is not complete freedom, but it is the first time the account feels like income instead of savings. At 50, the growth becomes harder to ignore. The account may move in a single quarter by more than the person used to save in a year. This is where the earlier sacrifices start to look less like sacrifice and more like a transfer of stress from your older self to your younger self. The younger version carried an older car, roommates, fewer upgrades, and automatic transfers. The older version receives options. Not perfection, not private jets. Options. Can I leave a bad job? Can I help family without destroying myself? Can I retire before fear makes every decision? Can I say no? That is what money buys first. Not luxury, but room to breathe. Now stretch the habit across 40 years. $1,000 a month is $12,000 a year. Across 40 years, that is $480,000 of contributions. Assume a long-term average return around 7% a year before taxes and fees, and the ending number can land around $2.5 million. Again, this is an illustration, not a promise. Real returns will not arrive in a straight line. Taxes matter. Fees matter. Sequence of returns matters. Life interruptions matter. But the lesson does not depend on an exact number. The lesson is that the salary was never the only engine. The salary funded the first engine. The habit built the second. Time made the second engine larger than the first. At 65, the person who looked average for decades may have more annual portfolio income potential than their job ever paid. Ryan may still have better income stories. He may still remember the years when he earned more, spent more, and looked ahead. But a high salary with no system is a river with no dam. It moves fast, it sounds powerful, then it is gone. So the question is not, can an average salary make you rich? By itself, no. A salary spends too easily. The better question is, can an average salary feed a system that makes wealth almost quietly? Yes, if the order is right. Cash buffer first. Employer match, high-interest debt, tax-advantaged accounts, broad diversified investing, taxable brokerage when the better buckets are handled. Then repeat through boredom, raises, recessions, and every excuse to stop. That is the unsexy truth. You do not need your paycheck to impress people. You need your paycheck to take orders, because the gap between what arrives and what you keep is where wealth is built. If this kind of money breakdown helps you see the picture earlier, subscribe. This channel is for the financial decisions people usually understand too late.